What's happening, you guys? Sports Other Diesel back at you here with another episode. Today, we're obviously going to be talking about Week 13 of the NFL season here. We got a lot of key matchups, a lot of big-time upsets here, which we will get to in just a moment here. But let's get down to business. Browns, Titans, 41-35 as the Cleveland Browns win by a huge onslaught that happened in the second quarter there, scoring 5 touchdowns in that second quarter. They're up by 38-7. I love Tennessee's resiliency. You're down by 30-plus points. You come back and you make it a ball game with under a minute to play. They lose. Unfortunately, the comeback falls short, and they lose 41-35. Baker Mayfield going off once again. 25 of 33, 334 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions in this football game. Second game on the docket, Raiders, Jets. And by the way, I'm not going to be going into detail about every single football game here because I want to have time to be looking at the AFC and the NFC and the playoff picture for both respective conferences here. So Raiders, Jets, the Raiders win on a 43-yard touchdown pass to Henry Ruggs III here. And with that being said, Greg Williams gets fired. Now, with Greg Williams here, there's been 2 situations in the past where he has done this, where he has blitzed on a Hail Mary pass, and it has been successful because they force the quarterback out of the pocket. They force him to run around, scramble, try and buy time, and then try and throw up a prayer. Whereas in this situation, Derek Carr, they pressure him, and it was an all-out blitz. They said 6 or more players. You leave it one-on-one and the 3 receivers that lined up. You leave it one-on-one on the outside with Henry Ruggs, who is a speedster who runs a 4.3, a 4.4, 40-yard dash on the outside. Kind of does a little hesitation, and he takes off. Derek Carr steps into the pocket. Ball game. Moving on. So, bye-bye, Greg Williams. See you later. You can go find another team to go do that for. With that being said, Deontay Waller goes off in this ball game, 13 catches, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. The 200 yards receiving is the most by a tight end in Raiders history. Moving on, Giants, Seahawks, one of the biggest upsets of the week. Giants win 17-12. Wayne Gallman, 16 carries, 135 yards rushing. And with Saquon Barkley being out, this team is still running the football, and they're running the football very well, even without Saquon Barkley. You give Joe Judge and his football team a lot of credit. They go into Seattle. They win a tough football game on the road. And I don't know how else to explain it. The Seahawks should have won this football game. Let's be real here. Obviously, they were favored to win this football game. The New York Giants are on a 4-game winning streak. They start 1-7 on the season. They win their last 4 games. They're 5-7. Now they're top of the division, and they're in a playoff spot currently right now. I will get to divisions and playoff seeding in just a second. Rams, Cardinals. A big game here for both teams as this is a divisional matchup. Rams win 38-28. Jared Goff goes off once again. 351 yards, a touchdown. He also rushes for a touchdown this ball game. I could talk about, Higbee's touchdown catch. I could talk about Robert Woods, 10 catches, 85 yards. I could talk about Cooper Kupp and the amount of catches he had. All I need to talk about is Jared Goff, because Jared Goff, the last number of weeks, has gone off. We know about their loss, 23-20. They lose to the San Francisco 49ers 10 days ago. We know about that loss. But this team is firing on all cylinders, and they play the Patriots on Thursday Night Football this week. Last but not least, the biggest upset of the week, the Washington I keep doing this. The Washington football team against the Pittsburgh Steelers here. Washington football team wins 23-17 here, a big win. I have to talk about Alex Smith because what an inspiration he has been after coming off of one of the most horrific injuries in NFL history. 31 of 46, 296 yards and a touchdown. Honestly, I'm surprised Logan Thomas didn't have any more catches than he did. 9 catches, 98 yards and a touchdown. This team has been playing well. The defense, the front 7 of that defense with Sweat and all these other guys, that front 7 is keeping the rush attack of some of these teams. And obviously, we know Pittsburgh didn't have James Conner. They rushed for 21, 23 yards in this football game. They can't. And actually, they just activated James Conner off of the reserve COVID list, so he should be back in Week 14 coming up this week. With that being said, there's no excuse for Pittsburgh to lose. And we all knew this 11-0, this undefeated record for Pittsburgh was a fluke because there was at least 3 games that they should have lost. They should have lost to Tennessee. They should have lost to Baltimore. There's been a couple of games that they've gotten away with during this regular season. And it finally comes back to bite them, and they finally lose a ball game. And I'm happy. I can be happy about it. But they're still the 1 seed in the conference. They still have the bye week, but like I said earlier, there's still too much football left to be played this regular season. Now let's get to the playoff picture and the divisions and the seedings and all of that jazz and the teams that are on the outside looking in that have a good chance of making the playoffs. We'll start with the AFC here. We obviously know Pittsburgh is at the top of this here, but let's start with the division of the AFC East here. Buffalo's leading that division at 9-3. A game behind them is Miami at 8-4. Buffalo's the 3 seed. Miami's the 6 seed in the playoff picture right now. New England's right behind them at 6-6 in the division. Obviously, we know New England's got no clear shot of winning the division, but they do play Miami and Buffalo in 2 out of the last 3 weeks of the regular season. And those are going to be 2 big games. But New England's got a tough test on Thursday Night Football against the Rams. They must win that football game in order for them to have a chance to make the playoffs. An even bigger chance, and a bigger and better chance for them to make the playoffs. Next, we got the AFC North division. Like I said, Pittsburgh's leading that division by far. There's no questions about it. They're 2 games ahead of Cleveland with 4 weeks left. They're the 1 seed. They're currently in that 1 seed spot, even though they lost. Cleveland's behind them, 9-3. They're the 5th seed. Baltimore's the 7th. Baltimore's on the outside looking in at 7-5 with their win last week on Tuesday. And then obviously you got Cincinnati. No one's going to be talking about them. No one's going to talk about the Jets or the AFC East. The only way you're going to talk about the Jets is because they have a very good chance of winning the number 1 overall draft pick. AFC South division, you got Tennessee and Indianapolis. This division is very tight at the top here. We got Tennessee and Indianapolis tied at 8-4. Tennessee's the 4 seed. Indianapolis is the last team to make. Right now, they're in that 7th seed, which is the last seed to make the playoffs. Then there's Houston and Jacksonville, 4-8, 1-11. No, not even close. Even though Deshaun Watson is having an MVP caliber season, I feel very bad for the team that them getting rid of DeAndre Hopkins and company. I think if he had DeAndre Hopkins, that record might be a little bit different than what we're seeing it right now. AFC West division, Kansas City's obviously at the top of that division by far. They're 4 games ahead of the Las Vegas Raiders. They're 11-1. They're the 2 seed right now, trying to get that number 1 overall seed and getting that bye week. Because remember, this year of the playoffs, only the number 1 seed in each conference is going to get a bye week. Everyone else has to play in the wild card round. Like I said, Raiders 7-5. Then there's Denver and the Chargers at 4-8 and 3-9. Obviously, I'll put up on the screen what it looks like in the conferences for the playoff teams right now. But like I said, the 3 teams that have a great chance on the outside looking in, trying to get into the playoffs is the Raiders, Baltimore, and New England. But all 3 of these teams practically, it looks like they might have to win out in order for them to have a chance. But they need help from the top 7 teams to get a chance to make the playoffs. But they got to keep winning their football games. Moving on to the NFC, we're going to start with the NFC East division here. Giants, the Washington football team are tied at the top of the division. Obviously, the Giants are the division leaders because of tiebreakers and the division record and all that jazz. They're the 4 seed right now. Washington's obviously at 5-7 as well as the Giants are. But to me, I mean, would you think of Philly and Dallas? Are they going to make the playoffs now? Doug Peterson's probably got to go. Mike McCarthy's probably got to go. They got to rebuild those coaching staffs from the ground up again. Because honestly, I don't like where it's going. But Philadelphia's got Jalen Hurts starting this week. over Carson Wentz. We will see how that plays out. But moving on to the NFC North division, you got Green Bay at the top of the division at 9-3. They're the 2 seed right now, trying to fight to get that 1 seed against, because New Orleans currently has that 1 seed. Minnesota Vikings are the last seed in that conference to make the playoffs at 6-6 currently right now in the standings. And then you got Chicago and Detroit, who are on the outside looking in at 5-7. And don't sleep on Detroit. Detroit's won like 2 out of their last 3 ball games. They want to make some noise, and we'll see how it plays out. You know, Matt Patricia's job is on the line here, but I think if they make the playoffs this season, I think his job will be in a good position going forward for the time being. NFC South Division, New Orleans, we know they're the number 1 overall seed right now, currently in the standings. They're 10-2. They currently have the bye week if the playoffs were to start today. Tampa Bay, 7-5. Atlanta, Carolina. Believe it or not, Atlanta and Carolina are not out of the playoffs just yet. They still have a chance to make the playoffs. Will they make the playoffs? Very doubtful. But with the lowest seed being 6-6, only being 2 games back, Minnesota loses a couple games, like 3 out of their last 4 ball games, and both of these teams win 3 out of their last 4. These 2 teams could possibly make the playoffs. Like that's how close the NFC is right now. And but Tampa Bay's been the disappointment out of that division more than anything else. Carolina gets, they get a little. I'll cut them a little slack because they haven't had Christian McCaffrey for like 9 weeks of the season here. And I think some of these ball games would have ended a little bit differently if they had McCaffrey healthy all season long. And then you have the NFC West division, which is the most tightly knit division, most close division out of all of these divisions together. And this division has a winning record. With all 4 teams combined, in my opinion, they're probably the best division in all of football right now. You got the Rams at 8-4, Seattle's right behind them, tied at the top of the division at 8-4, and then you got Arizona on the outside looking in at 6-6. Same thing with San Fran, outside looking in at 5-7. When you look at this, obviously you'll see it on the screen here. I'll be putting up both of the conferences and based on the standings and stuff, what team has what seeding currently right now through week 11 of the NFL season. Week 13. Oh my God, I'm losing my mind here, guys. With that being said, stay tuned for more stuff coming up. Thank you guys so much for your time. If you haven't already, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Please comment on and let me know on what you guys think of who on the outside could potentially make the playoffs in both conferences. Please comment and let me know and tell me what you guys think. But thanks again so much for your time. Obviously, stay tuned. I know I said in last week's video I was coming out with a video talking about NBA players and people moving and stuff like that. That is coming up very, very shortly here. I've been sidetracked, getting busy doing other things. Thank you guys again so much for your time. I will see you guys all in the next one. Deuces.